Food is fuel for your body, your mind, and definitely your sport. But let's face it, nutrition is confusing, and the expectations on girls and women to be thin and have a six-pack are exhausting. If you've ever been frustrated with your body, confused about nutrition, obsessed with eating healthy, or guilty when you don't, underate, overate, or overtrained, and overwhelmed with all the pressure, then this podcast is for you. Nutrition can be easy, you can take control of it, but it might start with letting go of control by asking for help and making a change. I'm Lindsay Elizabeth Cortez, sports dietitian and owner of Rise Up Nutrition, where I empower female athletes to overcome nutrition concerns and perform at their highest level, to stop being confused by all the mixed or harmful messages, and finally have confidence in your body as a fierce, fit, and fueled female athlete. Today's episode is thanks to our Patreon members and our affiliates and partners. Head to patreon.com/femaleathletenutrition to join our membership or donate to the podcast, and stay tuned to hear about some amazing deals and discounts from our partners, including Prevenix, Inside Tracker, Orgain, Practice Better, and Jen and Carrie. But for now, we're getting right to the show. Enjoy. Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining on another episode of the Female Athlete Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Cortez, and I'm here today with Katie Zaferes. She is a two-time Olympic medalist, two-time Olympian in 2016 and 2020, and 2019 world champion in world triathlon racing. More importantly, she is a mom to Kimble and wife to Tommy. Katie is returning to racing at the highest level after taking time out of the sport to have her son, Kimble, who was born in July 2022. While Kimble has already been to 9 countries, the family of 3 resides in Cary, North Carolina. Katie, thanks again for taking time out of your day to chat with me and our listeners.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
It is interesting, your son now 14 months old, having this conversation with you, just such a medaled triathlete. And it's interesting, probably the conversation we're going to have today versus what it might have been, 2 years ago with everything you've been through. It's just such a life change. And now you're racing, traveling with a baby and still going at it. It's so impressive. And I think very inspiring to girls and women to know that you, though difficult, if you choose to, you can have a baby and still compete at an extremely high level.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely wasn't something that I thought I was going to do originally when we started a family. I thought I would be finished with being competitive in sport, but I really like my job. So I decided to try and come back and do it our way. And you're right. It's not easy, but the balance is always a work in progress. But I've had zero regrets, and there's been so many special moments being able to share triathlon and this community with my son.
Yeah. So knowing that, which I didn't necessarily know before, like prior to having Kimble, you were thinking, okay, time to focus on family. But then you were like, the bug got back in you. You're like, I love triathlons. I love my job. I want to keep doing it. Is there any kind of difference in mental perspective as you kind of go after these athletic challenges and races now compared to pre-Kimble?
For sure. I think one of the biggest challenges that I've had is the mental side of things. And at first I felt like I was making too many excuses for myself in that I just came back from pregnancy. I just had a baby. Everything's harder. I need to go back up in the rankings. And that was a really big challenge. And only recently have I started changing my brain, changing my perspective of everybody has hard things. So it's just trying not to feel like the victim because I chose to come back after having Kimble, and everything physically and with Kimble, with our family balance, has been going really well. So when I take the emotional side out of it, then I'm very happy with how everything's moving. And for me, though, it's a difference between climbing up the ladder of success and ultimately having two Olympic medals right before we had Kimble, or right before we got pregnant with Kimble, to going back to the very bottom from when I started 10 years ago and trying to, I just want to be back to where I left off, which it's impossible. So being a lot more recognizing the progress that I make or have made in this last year since he's been around, and seeing that, well, yeah, I am doing pretty well, even if I'm not where I was when I left off yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I really actually really resonated with your statement about everybody has problems, because it does, it just helps validate what's going on while also not having that victim mentality. And I think that's hugely important. I've been utilizing that in my life as well. But also then being able to look more objectively. Wait, I'm doing what I love. I have my baby that I love. Like, okay, everything is good.
Yes.
And really helpful. This mindset work is, I would imagine, incredibly important in somebody who's competing at, the top tier, the higher echelons all the time. I'm sure you've had to do mindset work throughout your entire athletic career. And then this is one stage where you've had to dial it in even more.
Oh, for sure. I've relied on the mental side of things so much more. I mean, I talked to a sports psychologist, but also my mom was coming to Spain to help us with Kimble, and I sent 2 books to her that are Mind Gym, and then I forget the title of the other one, but I've been reading them to be like a little bit of my panic brain training before my next race.
Yeah. So working with a sports psychologist, reading books on this stuff, all things that are part of your lifestyle and your training to compete at the level you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for jumping right into this with me. I love that. I kind of do want to backtrack a little bit. I think most people are familiar with triathlon in the sense of swim, bike, run, but just in case any of our listeners aren't super familiar kind of with the sport, because there's different distance triathlons and you're an Olympian. I was wondering if you could just educate our listeners on the different types of triathlons that are out there, maybe what your specialty is within that.
Yes. So the main types are draft legal and non-draft racing. The style of racing that I do is draft legal, and it's Olympic distance, which means it's a 1,500 meter swim, a 40K bike, like 22 miles, and then a 10K run, 6.2 miles. And that's what we do in the Olympics. And only draft legal is in the Olympics. So when you go to non-draft, you can do a non-draft race that's sprint distance, so half the distance of the Olympic distance I just said, or up to an Ironman, which I'm sure many of your listeners have heard of, which has historically been in Kona, but this year is a bit different. The women are in Kona, but the men just raced in Nice. It was the first time they were separated. But anyways, that's a little different thing. But it's a much longer race. And so there's also the half distance, which is 70.3. And so I haven't got into that point in my career. I don't know if I will get to that point in my career for the half distance or longer, but specifically what I do is, as I said, draft legal, which means we can draft on the bike. You'll see us in packs. It's allowed. We're working ish together, and it's a really fast paced, really dynamic. And a lot of our races are circuits. So the race I have coming up next weekend is the grand final. It's in Pontevedra, Spain, and it'll be a 2-lap swim course. And then the bike is 8 laps of the same technical course. And then the run will be 4 laps to equal 10K. So it's a lot more compact. And we also, I mean, there's a lot of realms of triathlon, but so also in my draft legal Olympic specific, there's also sprint distance races, there's super sprint races, and there's mixed relay, which is amazing because you race with 3 other people, 2 men and 2 women. You tag off. That's what we got silver in at the Tokyo Olympics, where it was the debut of that event in the history of the Olympics. And us Americans got second, and I got to be a part of that team. So that is a really amazing aspect. But for right now, in the Olympics is the Olympic distance and the mixed relay. And
mixed relay, that's brand new.
They hope to add more disciplines or events in the future for the Olympics.
Yeah, it's just what an interesting sport, right? It's 3 sports into one, but then within this one sport, we've got so many different distances. We've got it, in crazy terrain or doing laps. We've got the drafting or the not drafting. There's so many different, it's quite complicated.
Right. And then I didn't even get into the Xterra Triathlon, which is off-road, but there's a lot, and on Super League, which I'll be doing a couple weeks after Pontevedra. So
Yeah.
there's enough for everyone to choose which suits them most.
I think so. Absolutely. And, your kind of history of getting into triathlon started as you being a track and field athlete in college. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think focusing on like the 5K, maybe the steeplechase distances. Were those your specialties in college?
In college, yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so how did that transition from track and field to triathlon go? Kind of what sparked your interest in doing that?
Honestly, I didn't really know too much about triathlon. I'd done a few triathlons with my dad right after high school, where there was a Father's Day triathlon locally, and I'm one of 3 girls, and I was the selected daughter for him to do the race with. So that was my very first triathlon, was with him. And besides that, I didn't really know anything about triathlon. I didn't know it was an Olympic sport. I didn't know it was a possibility for a professional sport. And, but I did have a background in swimming. I would have said up until I went to college for running, I would have said that my main sport was swimming.
Okay.
And I had actually only started running in high school because I played soccer and I played lacrosse. But when I quit lacrosse, I was like, well, I need to stay in shape for soccer in the fall, soccer in the fall. And I ended up winning some Maryland state titles my first year and doing quite well, so that I did go out for the soccer team in the fall, but I learned that I wasn't going to get much playing time, and then decided ultimately to run cross country. So basically I ended my high school career as a swimmer and a runner, but then deciding to go to school, I was looking at doing swimming, I was looking at doing running, I was looking at doing running and swimming, and decided to go to Syracuse, where they only wanted me for running. And they told me, oh, you can swim in your free time. I said, well, I was there for 5 years, and I think I maybe swam 2 times.
Yeah.
So
not much free time.
No. And then I had in my senior year, but I still had a 5th year of eligibility for track and field. I was contacted by USA Triathlon and recruited. They saw that I ran Division I and had a background in swimming. And the theory was, we can teach you how to ride a bike. And so during that time, it was really lucky timing for me too, because it was at this moment that this program was evolving and really picking up speed and kind of becoming more substantial. Before, they used to only give you a coach and then see how you did and developed. And then when I started, they gave me a coach, but then I got invited to go out to the Olympic Training Center to train. Then I got invited to go to a European camp to train. And that really, it really increased the rate of my progression, because I was able to have so much help to begin with. And triathlon's a really expensive sport. So for me to be given a lot of the resources from the very beginning was truly, life-changing, and definitely changed the path of my career.
Yeah. Yeah. So USA Triathlon being what was kind of new at that time, and
the Collegiate Recruitment Program.
The Collegiate Recruitment Program. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Really. It's interesting because I think from the running perspective, so many runners love the sport because it's like that low barrier to entry. You just need a pair of shoes, and you can, which shoes can be expensive, but you can, get shoes and run out your door and you can run. But yeah, you add in, I need a membership to access a pool. And now I need the bike. The bike is probably the most expensive part of it. So, And then now at your level too, now you're traveling all around to do all of this. So really great that you had those support and resources to help you out as you got into it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was just took a piece of the stress of doing a new sport that I really didn't know anything about off the table, because I think it would have been much harder to commit to it if I didn't know I'd have that support.
Hey fans, I hope you are enjoying this conversation so far, and we'll be back to it in just a moment. But first, I want to pause and let you know that this episode is brought to you by the Female Athlete System of Transformation. aka the fast track to overcome disordered eating and use food as fuel to perform at your highest level. The Female Athlete System of Transformation is my unique program and proven systems to guide female athletes to understanding and implementing the proper nutrition for their sport, life, and health. Myself and my team of registered sports dietitians work one-on-one with clients to address their unique needs and counsel them through the nutritional and behavioral changes needed. Many female athletes who resonate with disordered eating, mental guilt around food and body, relative energy deficiency in sport or female athlete triad, amenorrhea, repeat injuries due to negligent nutrition, or frankly, just a lack of knowledge and understanding on their fueling needs, have seen incredible success in the fast track. After years of working as a sports RD, I've compiled the most effective ways for female athletes to learn nutrition, be supported, be challenged, and ultimately find their success with fueling as fast as possible. So don't wait another day. Get to your goals faster by joining the Female Athlete System of Transformation. Look in the show notes or head to the website to book a free call and learn more. Okay, now let's get you back to the conversation. Enjoy. Now, just hypothetically speaking, if this USA Triathlon Collegiate Recruitment Program did not reach out to you, do you think you would have pursued professional sport on your own?
No. It's funny because I was such a not a cynic. I don't know what the right word would be, but there would be athletes who were on my team, and they would say, "Oh, I'm like trying to make it to the Olympics. I'm trying to be a professional runner." And all I would think in my head is, do you know how many people make it to the Olympics? Do you know how many people make it as a professional runner? And I just thought I was going to be doing the safe path of using my degree, which was physical education, K through 12, or going to graduate school and being a health education teacher or doing community health.
Yeah.
So it was a very big decision for me to pursue going this pathway. And even after I was invited to the Olympic Training Center, my dad was driving me out from Maryland to Colorado Springs. And I said, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go back, because it felt so scary. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be an Olympian or a professional athlete, but I held everybody to such higher standards. It seemed unattainable to me at the time. And so I'm very thankful that my path crossed with USA Triathlon, and that they identified me, and that it was able to become a part of, well, not just become a part of my life. Basically, it became my life. And
absolutely.
Where I met my husband. Like, I've traveled to so many different countries and achieved so much more than I ever thought possible.
Right. And you're not, like, first of all, being an Olympian is more than enough, but you're not, I would even want to say you're not just an Olympian. I mean, your podium in the 2021, you were third place, and Olympics aside, all the world's, events, you've been the top for the past few years. Absolutely. So it's crazy. I think that really shows that the power in, if given the opportunity, of how much we can rise to the occasion, right? Maybe you didn't see yourself in this position in the beginning, but you were given an opportunity. You had support and people who saw it in you, and you were able to eventually, meet that and match that and just surpass even your own expectations.
For sure. I think what it became is just trying, and it still is really just trying to be the best version of myself and see how far I can go. And as we were saying, when I was coming back after having Kimble, a big part was I didn't feel like I'd hit my ceiling. I felt that I could keep going or get better and I wasn't tired of this sport. I wasn't feeling like I needed to withdraw from triathlon because of just feeling done or overcooked or anything. I have a lot of energy for this sport. Yeah.
So there's more. You can feel that now. There's more in me.
Some days more than others, but yes.
Wow. I love that. I really love that. Well, focusing now on the nutrition piece of things, there's just so much nutrition. I've never competed in triathlon. If I did, I'd be a totally different caliber than you, but just want to be upfront. I've never competed in triathlon myself, but in working with other triathletes, there's a lot of kind of nutrition details you have to tap into. Again, as we already went over, what is the distance of this triathlon? What is the terrain? But then it's also during what phases of this competition are we going to fuel? When is the easiest? How do we carry it? All that. So I think the sport itself has a lot of nutrition to think about, but just kind of from more of a overarching question to ask you, be it triathlon or otherwise, like when in your journey in life or as an athlete did kind of nutrition come on your radar as something that could, help your body perform better, or something that you just even began to think about?
Partway through college, I was eating maybe like some college students eat, where I was thriving off Dunkin' Donut muffin tops and apple juice and goldfish, and not having such a balanced meal, or meals, I should say. And there was a grad assistant who was a professional runner for our team. And ultimately, I decided to ask her for some help with it. And she really was the one she took me to a grocery store and showed me how to shop the aisles and told me about serving sizes. And because I should start with maybe that I was never the runner who didn't eat enough. I was a runner who ate substantially, but too much / not the right things. And so,
just what was easy or convenient for you, it sounds like. Just like you said, the Dunkin' Donuts, like, okay, got to eat, so I'm going to eat whatever I can type of thing.
Exactly. And not really I guess now I would love to be a very good cook and chef and mix flavors together, but that's still not me. And it wasn't me in college.
Yeah.
I would love to have that skill set, but I haven't gotten to working on that part yet. So it was just what was easy. And sometimes then what was easy was I wasn't very thoughtful about. And so my grad assistant, she was the first person who really helped me with that. And then after college, when I started with the USA Triathlon Collegiate Recruitment Program, one of the resources that we had was working with a nutritionist. So that was really helpful. And I really appreciated that our nutritionist then, he really was all about fueling and making sure that you're fueling enough for the days and that it's adequate, and the timing of the fueling, but also the timing of the specific things you're eating and why, and working really on an individual basis. So I guess during my last years of college, my beginning years of triathlon is when I really started to notice what the difference was, or really started paying attention to nutrition and for me, I needed guidance with that.
Yeah. I as a sports dietitian, and I do work with a lot of clients who struggle. Well, I guess if anybody's coming to see a dietitian, it's because they're struggling with their nutrition. They need that help, right? But I think especially in the sport of track and field, there's other sports that we do see like a higher rate of maybe not eating enough or disordered eating, but we still need to know just how to eat. And it sounds like when you were in college, it was just like, we just didn't know how to eat. So that was great that you didn't have a problem with undereating, but that doesn't mean that your nutrition was good.
Right.
And you are so reminding me of one of my high school clients that we have right now, that it's like, awesome, I'm comfortable eating pizza. That's great. But like eating 8 slices of pizza because I didn't eat well all day is not taking care of my body as an athlete. So it's like, yes, you are allowed to eat pizza. Yes, I'm glad that you enjoyed your 8 slices, but like, yeah, we need to know how to make ourselves a good breakfast. We need to know how to grocery shop and put together, a decent lunch and get some high quality like vegetables and lean proteins in for snacks and things like that. And so there's so much learning that I think our society, frankly, just doesn't set children, adolescents, or college students up to learn how to feed themselves. And I think that's exactly where your grad assistant helped you do, is like, this is how you shop at a grocery store, So Does that make sense as to your journey as well?
Oh, for sure. And I would say, I mean, I think maybe it's just where I'm from or my community, but I don't feel like how to eat or how to prepare food was ever really taught in a way that
Yeah.
was easy and manageable and, pardon the pun, but digestible, that you could practice it easily
Yeah.
and be able to, I mean, the way I eat now is much more thoughtful, but it's really still quite lazy in the sense that most of my veggies, because of just how our lifestyle is and what I found to be easy, are frozen veggies, because
Which is fine.
that's the thing that I can
Yeah.
have the time for. And if it comes to, for me, having to slice vegetables and prepare that, I'll end up
Then
making
it's
a
not going to happen.
yeah, I'll end up making a different decision because it's not ready. And so trying to find out the easiest way to eat healthy has been
Mm-hmm.
something that has kind of evolved for me, because like I said, I would love to be better about fresh fruits and vegetables. Well, fruits I eat, but fresh vegetables more often. But in reality, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. And I am totally accepting of that. And I appreciate your transparency, because I think at the end of the day, we do have to, we all have different priorities in life. Yours are your family and competing. And of course, to compete, your nutrition is key there, but it's what makes this the easiest. You don't have that much time, I wouldn't imagine. So it has to be easy for you. And also it's not everybody, like, I think for you, like you said, you would actually like to get in the kitchen more. Some people don't like to. That's not their form of fun or decompression. So what makes this easiest is such an important slogan for anybody to remember when it comes to making nutrition changes or nutrition goals, is how can I do this in the easiest way possible? And so your example of like, okay, if I need to get vegetables in, frozen is going to be the way that I can get them in the easiest. And so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. My easy button right now for me is with two babies, I just cannot go to the grocery store. So I'm doing pickup orders or delivery all the time. It's like, I will get my groceries, but I'm not going to be the one doing it. That's my easy button right now. We all have to find what works for us.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that definitely have gone to delivered groceries as well, because yeah, the time and energy and just the choices you make, it's all a balance,
Yeah,
choosing those battles.
absolutely. Okay, so your journey with nutrition started with just learning like how to shop at the grocery store, understanding portion sizes, putting together more balanced meals. And then was there a point where you did, obviously, I think like you said, working with the dietitian with the Olympic Training Center, started getting into nutrient timing, recovery, kind of more of the intricate details of actual like sports nutrition. And I just kind of maybe maybe not rapid fire, but just kind of some questions about like in your learned experiences, do you have some top tips or things that work for you? Not saying they'll work for everybody, but of how to actually like fuel for a triathlon, what works for you when fueling during a triathlon race? We'll keep it specific to racing.
Okay. So yes, my tips for triathlon racings actually go a little bit towards training too, because for me, it's been really important to practice whatever I plan to do racing in training to make sure that my gut is right, but also that the fueling works for me. There's so many different things you can take in while you're competing, and to make sure that you have the right one, I think is really important. And to be able to compare not on race day is ideal. And for me, I use UCAN products, which is more longer term energy or sustained energy rather than just having a glycogen spike that will go away. So I have to make sure that my nutrition is preemptive and that I've thought about it beforehand, because if I take a UCAN Edge or their gel whenever I feel like it, whenever I feel that I'm needing it, that's a bit too late. I would have to use something else. So for me, I always make sure that basically my nutrition is about, well, all race. So leading into the race, I've stopped eating like the multigrain breads, and I'm starting to just eat a lot more simple carbs and simple, kind of staying away from the veggies, away from fruit more, and tapering that off. And only like a few days before I race, just so I can make sure that my gut's completely sound and uncomplicated.
Not too much fiber in your system, basically. Less fiber.
Correct. So that's been working for me. And then obviously making sure to hydrate leading into these races, but a combination of hydration and electrolytes and also salt intake too, to make sure that it all balances each other out. And then leading into particularly race day, I don't really have like a pre-race meal. I used to, and that's kind of also evolved over the years. Before it used to be chicken parm, which was quite heavy now when I think about it. And now I'm more a bit rice based, but I like to go, as long as I trust the Indian place or Thai place. I really like having Indian or Thai mild. I don't like spicy. So yeah, I don't ever like spicy. So for me, that really works and helps me to feel good.
Great. And you get your rice and your noodles in both of those cuisines that help you with your carbohydrates, right?
Yeah. And a little bit of protein with like the chicken and stuff.
Yeah.
And then on actual race day, I'll pretty much eat normal that I've been doing leading up into the race: eggs, bread with jam, or bananas, thrive off bananas. And then it's about 3 hours before the race, I've pretty much tapered off all the big meals, and now I'm just kind of having snacks. And then 45 minutes, about an hour to 90 minutes before the race, I'll have one of my UCAN edges. And then I also have a caffeine pill with 200 milligrams of caffeine. And then for the start of the race, I'll take a gel down, have another one, and then kind of go for the race start, have 2 gels on my bike, but realistically I have one of them. This is for Olympic distance triathlon, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. Good disclaimer.
And I have two bottles on my bike. One will be with water and one will be with UCAN energy. I like to do a plain energy packet with hydration of watermelon or pineapple or whatever my flavor of the day is. And the goal is to get through most of those water bottles. That's something I'm still working on 10 years later. So I'm probably a 1 water bottle kind of gal most consistently. And one to 2 gels. I'll for sure take 1 gel while I'm on the bike, but then the other one I'll have it in my hand usually when I'm running. So if I want to take a little bit more, I will. And like you had mentioned earlier with timing, that's a really big part of nutrition, or not nutrition, but nutrition in a race, because for our races, they're so fast paced and technical. I really have to think ahead of time, especially on the bike. Where am I going to take a sip of water? Where am I going to take this gel off of my bike and eat it? Because you're usually in a big pack going around corners. So it's trying to find those straight sections. And that does 2 things for me. A, that is a good place to take in the nutrition, but just by identifying the place, it allows me to stay committed to my nutrition goals and my nutrition plan. Yes. By being intentional.
Part of the plan, you just get it done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks to Inside Tracker, I can get insights and feedback on my blood biomarkers whenever I want to. No more waiting for doctor's visits and them telling you you're fine. Instead, you are in control of your health with Inside Tracker. For 20% off any of their products, blood biomarker testing, DNA kit, inner age, head to InsideTracker.com and use the code RISEUP. Take your health into your own hands. Health, wellness, and fitness coaches, listen up. Practice Better is the all-in-one platform that I use to manage my business and my clients. From client scheduling and messaging, hosting sessions, taking notes, creating modules, invoicing, telehealth, building reports, and more, Practice Better is the better way to manage your practice as a nutrition or health or fitness coach. Look no further. Use the link in our show notes and use the code RISEUP20 for 20% off your first 4 months plus a 14-day free trial. I've been using Practice Better since the inception of my business, Rise Up Nutrition, and I couldn't be happier. Again, the code is RISEUP20, all caps. Use the link in our show notes for 20% off your first 4 months and a 14-day free trial. Let's get back to the episode.
Oh, yeah, this is actually really interesting now that I'm really thinking about it, because I feel like when you think of like an Ironman triathlon, like fueling on the bike seems like the easier thing to do because you're on the bike for quite a long time. Obviously not the swim, just maybe easier to hold on the bike or something or digest it than on the run. But in the Olympic distance, honestly, bike is like the scariest part with how close you guys are in the pack and those tight turns, like you said. I'm like, oh my gosh, eating on the bike sounds, yeah, you do have to know when is it going to happen and commit to it, because you don't want to be distracted at the wrong time in that sort of situation.
For sure. And there's always at least one straight on most of the bike courses. So you always have at least a moment, but if you miss it, it's kind of, it makes things a little more challenging.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, that was very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing. There are quite a few things there of just, making sure that we are training with foods and fuel that we plan to race with so that we're, good with it. We know we tolerate it. We know it works. Decreasing fiber leading up to a race. I love your flexibility kind of in the fact that maybe we don't necessarily have like, I only eat this pre-race, and you're kind of flexible with it. But with that being said, you're experienced, you kind of know how your body's going to tolerate something. But yeah, 3 hours before a race is kind of, you're like, okay, my main meals are done. Now I'm just doing performance fuel leading up to the race. Generation UCAN, that's actually a product that I'm hoping to have somebody come on the podcast to talk about soon. But just that, okay, yeah, we're getting that sustained carbohydrate starch in, but utilizing other forms if needed. And I'm just kind of recapping everything you said just for our listeners. But I love as well that you're like, you always take 2 gels, even though you might only utilize one and one is enough, but you always take 2 just in case. And I like that recommendation as well, to just have that extra. Some days you might need it for whatever reason. Some days you don't. One should be enough, but we're going to bring that extra just in case.
Yeah. And I suppose another tip is figure out I don't know if maybe it's just us doing this, but for me, like I'm taping my gels on top of my top tube so that I can pull them off. And when I pull it off, the tab comes off. So having a system that might make it easier for you. And everybody, if you look at my competitors' bikes, everybody has a different way. Everybody has a different amount of fueling that they plan to take. Everybody has a different system. So yeah, maybe just take a look at the transition video when they go through and show the bikes.
Yeah, because that's interesting too, that actually as you take it off the bike, that it rips off for you. It's one less step you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yes. So if any listeners are like trying to figure out how to do their nutrition during triathlon, watch the transition videos, slow it down in slow motion and look at what people are doing and try out some of those methods.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't know if it changes much, but as you've mentioned, you, with all these races, you travel so much and, fueling while traveling can be difficult. And I think in one sense, I love how that's where you're like, okay, you kind of, as far as like meals, pre-race meal, like you're kind of flexible because I think you have to be when traveling. I don't know if you have any other tips of what traveling to different parts of the country and the world and food availability and how that's affected you as an athlete, or just fueling tips while traveling for these races. Do you have any suggestions or, what's worked for you there?
I would say for sure, make sure that you're bringing everything that you would need, must-haves that you are really unsure if they're going to be in another country, or even say your flight's getting in late and you're getting to your hotel or Airbnb and you don't have food at that point. having something that you brought with you, whether it's oatmeal and peanut butter in your checked bag or something, whatever works for you, just so as soon as you get somewhere when you're already tired from traveling and kind of feel, well, for me, I always feel kind of just gross off like airplane food and things like that.
Yeah.
Just to be able to have something that you want and be able to fuel right away and not feel like, oh, I need to find a grocery store or figure out a restaurant. Or when you're in a different place, it may not even be a foreign place. It could just be a different place. And
yeah,
I would also say when traveling, always have your reusable water bottle or always have water on hand so that you can fill up as much as you need once you get through security, because you can't take water through security, but there's always usually refill areas on the other side. And yeah, you don't want to be thirsty on the plane. That's always a big part of it. And I suppose another thing to plan ahead is not just your food for when you just arrive or your must-haves for things in general, especially if you have dietary restrictions. I don't have any, so I'm pretty flexible with what I can eat once I arrive. But if there are things that well, this might be challenging, and Google's great. It can tell you anything. So if you're not sure if it's going to be available in the country that you're arriving in or the place you're arriving in, just do a quick Google question and usually somebody will have that answer for you. When we get places, I always look up the delivery apps because they're different. So in Spain here, I mean, we don't need to use one because everything's right outside our door, but there's Glovo or Deliveroo, I think is more UK based, whereas we use different ones. So I've always found that to be really nice because I'm not someone who enjoys going out to meals leading into a race. I'd much prefer have food come to me. And
yeah, it reduces stress, right? Come to me.
Exactly. And even when we were in Abu Dhabi, where we stay is in a Yaz Island, and there's a few hotels right in the area, but we were spending so much money on these meals. And then once we found out about this delivery app, you could have a very nice dinner for a lot cheaper. And so it was just more cost effective than eating in the specific area that we were. So
yeah,
that's also, but I think prepare as much as you can go for the places that you're going, whether that's just another town in the same state you live there. As I said, Google's been my best friend with that, where I can look up what the closest grocery store is going to be to my hotel, what the closest restaurants are that I might be interested in, so that when I actually go, it's one less thing to think about, because obviously whenever you're going somewhere, that's probably going to be pretty close to the race. You probably already would like to start conserving your energy. So the more work that you can do beforehand, at least for me, that relaxes me a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I don't think I mentioned this in the beginning, but as you mentioned, you do have a race next weekend in Spain. And so you're there now already. And how typically for you, just out of curiosity, like how early or soon do you arrive to a place when you're going to have a competition there?
It depends on how far away the place is that we're going. So the further away, the earlier we get places. I'm actually in Spain right now. I've been here for the last 3 weeks because we love training in Spain. So we'll still have to get on a flight to go to where the race is. But I will leave on Tuesday and the race is on Sunday. And that's actually a bit early for me. But I'm also someone who enjoys getting to places early, because as soon as I get there, I feel like, well, now I'm really relaxing and getting ready to race and absorbing the taper.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Okay. And then maybe my last question for you, top tips with nutrition and fueling, is just, has anything changed with becoming a mom or as a mom athlete? I know the first year of your child's life is just difficult, and he's just over that year mark. But do you have any tips as far as fueling as a mom athlete in your experiences so far?
It's really similar to as an athlete, I've found, because as a professional athlete, you're just tired all the time and hungry all the time. And that's how I felt like it is as a mom as well. the main thing, and I've done this before we had Kimble, but is just asking for help specifically in nutrition when I need it. I mean, right after Kimble was born, I contacted a local nutritionist and dietitian who's also a friend of ours. I said, hey, can you help me do meal planning? I'm making really bad decisions, and not really bad decisions, but I'm not making the optimal decisions for performance. And I said, can you help me with meal planning? I've never done it before. And she said, yeah. And she did a great job. She sent me a list. They were really easy recipes. It was really written out well. And then I messaged her and I said, well, like, Nettie, I'm not doing a very good job. Like, you're doing great, but I'm still not following through. And she's like, well, would it help if I made the meals and brought them over to you? And I'm like, yeah, that could help. So I understand that that's a very privileged thing to be able to have. But I also
think your advice of ask for help, ask for what you need, because you never know the ways in which people or other services might have or be willing to do that for you.
Exactly. And also spending money in ways that will make me healthier, and that's worth it to me to be able to have that service, like you said.
Yeah.
Because it really increases my quality of life and feelings. And as you said, no one comes to a dietitian unless they think they need help. And that's been, I've had a conversation actually with my mom. I asked, oh, do you want a nutritionist? She's like, well, I know what to do, but I just don't do it. And I said, well, that's everybody. That's me. Like every time I use a nutritionist is because I know what to do, but I need someone to hold me accountable, or I need someone to guide me. Or, I mean, a lot of working with a nutritionist for me has been finding, I have a sweet tooth, and none of my nutritionists or dietitians who I've worked with has been really restrictive, but they've also been able to provide me with different options that fulfill that for me. So I'm not always craving something that, like, yes, I can have every now and again, but maybe don't want to have all the time or do too much of. I mean, moderation is everything. And like protein ball recipes, where when I'm mixing things together and realizing, wow, I know everything that just went into that, and I know the amount that just gave me 12 of them or however many. And it's like, this is pretty great. They taste amazing, and and I know I'm making a good choice. So.
Yeah, super, super helpful and such good advice. That awesome. So, and I guess I know I'm taking up your time. I can hear Kimble in the background, so I know you got to get back to him. But like we mentioned, you've got a race coming up next weekend in Spain, and you also are preparing for Paris in 2024. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, to qualify, yes.
To qualify, yes. So I guess that was my question: is like when's the qualifying race? I can't believe. Wow. Sorry, September 2023. So that would be next summer. So when's the qualifying race?
We had one about a month ago, and Taylor Knibb, one of the American girls, she qualified. She was the first and only American in the top 8. And I was 12th at that race, I believe. And then our next opportunity is actually in Pontevedra, if I'm the first American on the podium, which is quite the goal, but we're going for it. And then there will be at least one spot available next year, probably around May, at a race that hasn't been selected yet. So,
okay.
We have 3 spots.
It's kind of late.
Yeah, it is. But that's been so far in the 2 Olympics I've been to, I've been selected basically a couple months before. So.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, you've got a couple more opportunities, but yeah, we might, between now and May is when you'll find out. So I'll wish you all the best in that pursuit, but also everything else, including your race coming up. And Katie, thank you so much for sharing more about the sport of triathlon, your journey with the sport and fueling throughout it. You gave just such wonderful tips for our listeners too. I loved them. I end every podcast with the same quick questions if you're ready to play along. Okay.
All right. Ready.
If there's one food you could eat every single day for the rest of your life and never get sick of it, what would it be?
Bread, but fresh bread. like baguettes.
Yes, baguettes. I love that. Yeah. Still hot? You like them hot?
Oh yeah, warm for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Love it. Sounds obvious, but it might not be. What is your favorite sport to participate in?
Triathlon, I suppose. I still feel like I'm still thinking about it, because sometimes you see your like job sport as different than, but no,
Different than your fun sport.
It would still be my fun sport, actually.
I love it. Yeah. Now, how about as a spectator? Is it the same or something different? What's your favorite sport to watch?
My husband, Tommy, he's actually gotten me into watching surfing, and I've never been to an actual competition in person. However, he watches it online, and I always am just like watching it behind him. Although now that I say that, it's probably not true. Competitive dancing is probably my top one. I love watching people dance. I think it's incredible.
How fun. Now, do you watch that live, or do you watch that on TV as well?
We've been to World of Dance, I think it was. And then I've also been to So You Think You Can Dance. One of the,
wow.
It was years ago. It was so long ago, but yeah, I love it. But I could watch, I've been to my friend, we have friends of ours, and their daughter is a phenomenal dancer. And I've been to her recitals or I guess you would call them recitals. And I'm just amazed by all the levels.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. And then our final question is, you yourself, an amazing and inspiring female athlete, but is there another female athlete out there that you want to give a shout out to for just being an inspiration or a role model in your life? She could be well known or just someone in your personal life.
For sure. So I have a friend of mine, Ashley Twitchell. She went to Tokyo in open water swimming, and she lives in the same area, and she has a son who's 5 weeks older than our son, Kimble. And I've gotten to witness her coming back, but also going through the balance of being highly competitive in your sport and also a phenomenal mom. And to me, watching her has just been really cool. And to do this with her has been really inspiring. And she has, like, I would go to the pool with her and swim with her. No one can see my quotes right now, but I'm not actually, she's much faster than me. I'm in the pool in the lane way further behind her doing something different. And her work ethic is just really, really something to admire.
Yeah. So to Ashley, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your insights and wisdom and just being willing to have this conversation with our listeners. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Lindsay.
Well, everybody, thanks for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, if you are a true fan of female athlete nutrition, then I would love if you could support our podcast by spreading the word. Share a review on your listening channel, give us 5 stars. It really helps get the word out and get the show more views to positively impact others. Also, you can support the podcast by joining our Patreon. Head to patreon.com/female athlete nutrition to consider a donation, or even better, join our membership where you get extra monthly content and perks. We don't want you to simply listen alone. We want you to be a part of a community and a movement of fierce, fit, and fueled female athletes. So patreon.com/female athlete nutrition is where you can do exactly that, learn more, and join. A huge thanks to our affiliates and partners as well. Once again, Prevenix, Inside Tracker, or Gain, Practice Better, Jen and Carrie. Please go check them out, and their links in the show notes where you can get deals and discounts. Last, be sure that you do more than just listen. If you need help with fueling, it's time to take action. Head to my website to learn more. You can either book a free call with me to learn more about our coaching programs and how we can work directly with you, whether it's the fast track or otherwise. Or you can take our online self-study course, Female Athlete Nutrition. You can literally sign up and gain access right now. You can explore our downloadable products, including the Red S Recovery Guide, High Iron Fueling Guide, or if you are a coach of a team, check out our brand new Coaches Toolkit for teams. You can also just learn more. We have a blog, a Red S quiz to see if Red S is affecting you. If you need help, I want you to get help fast. Too many girls and athletes struggle with nutrition, but you don't have to any longer. You can rise up with the power of nutrition, take action today in any of these avenues, and become fierce, fit, and fueled. Links in the show notes, and we'll see you next time.